Boruto Uzumaki just pulled off one of the wildest flexes in the entire Naruto franchise. He walked straight back into the very same village where everyone wants him dead to save the people who are literally sprinting to go snitch on him. This man showed up like, hey, I know you guys think that I murdered my parents who you don't remember are actually my parents, but real quick, let me save your life before you call the Anbu Black Ops on me. I'm trying to do a good thing here. It's not like I just shaved the head of the son of the captain of the Anbu Black Ops bald or anything like that. And you had fans online yelling, this is a plot hole. Boruto should have wore a mask. Why doesn't he use the transformation jutsu? Isn't Boruto supposed to be some mega genius? How could he not do something like that? Meanwhile, Boruto's out here fighting Mamushi, a Shinju monster trying to kill Himawari and Eida and try not to tear Konoha in half, and Boruto is still holding himself to a higher moral standard than half the fandom in my opinion. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where we're going to be breaking down why Boruto's return makes perfect narrative sense, why wearing a mask means absolutely nothing for this situation, why the transformation jutsu is a waste of chakra, why this is not a plot hole like I've been seeing in the comment section, and most importantly, how this entire situation is low-key a perfect inverse parallel to Obito Uchiha and Boruto. And that's very poetic when you consider that Naruto and Obito both paralleled each other, and now aspects of Boruto's current situation is an inverse intentionally done when it comes to Obito's journey as well. And trust me, that Obito comparison is gonna get hilarious, and it should change how you view Boruto being willing to be a villain in this story, really shaking up. So before we jump into this, real quick, if you haven't seen the chapter review, that will be linked in the description box and in the end credits. And if you've not seen my new video on my Everything One Piece Explained channel, that will also be linked in the description box and in the end credits as well. The same with my new Spy Family video on my Anime Explained channel. So let's just start first and foremost with why Boruto returning to Konoha is not the plot hole. Those are the two words that the Naruto fandom tends to throw around when it comes to things related to Boruto, and then when you sit down and think about it, the things that they're calling plot holes aren't really plot holes, but we'll get on that in another video. So to understand why this moment is so powerful, we need to acknowledge the weight that is on Boruto's shoulders. He is a rogue ninja. He is wanted for the murder of Naruto and Hinata, which is heartbreaking when you consider how much he loves his parents. Every single villager outside of the ones who know the truth, they're convinced that he did it because Kawaki took advantage of Omnipotence and knew that their memories were swapped and said, hey, I'm Naruto's child. I'm telling you guys that this guy killed my parents. You're going to believe me, right? I saved the village a couple times. You're going to believe me. Why else would I lie about it? And that's what makes this entire situation very special. The village doesn't hate Boruto for something he did. They hate him because the boy that they remember in their head is not Boruto Uzumaki. They remember Boruto as the ungrateful outsider, and they remember Kawaki Uzumaki being the second coming of Minato, being the boy who fought alongside Naruto and Sasuke, the boy who everyone had such high hopes for. And they remember that boy telling them, hey, this guy killed my parents. In a world where you have aliens and etc. That's why nobody is going, why isn't there a body? Because even in Naruto, there were jutsu that could destroy somebody and not leave a trace of a body behind. It's not a big deal. Boruto right now is operating in a world where memory itself is an enemy, not the people themselves. That's partially why this isn't a plot hole. A plot hole is when the story contradicts its own rules. But here, the story is following the rules of Omnipotence perfectly. Their memories, they were rewritten. Their logic is built on the false memories and Kawaki's manipulation. To them, Boruto is the killer, and Kawaki is now Naruto's son. He has all of that political well-being that Boruto had. Everything is internally consistent. Nothing about Boruto returning and not hiding his face breaks the story's rules. If anything, it enforces them, especially given that Boruto not covering up his face is completely in character for him. The real tragedy is that Boruto is the one who's carrying around the truth, and it isolates him more than any rogue ninja cloak or rogue ninja mask could ever do. And that brings me to why Boruto doesn't wear a mask and why the mask itself is useless if you sit there and think for more than 2 seconds instead of bitching. So there are some fans who say, Boruto, he should just wear a mask like Obito did. That would keep him safe. Nobody would know it's him. But no, that is only something that is unnecessary. It literally is useless for a few different reasons, but I'm only going to use 3 here. So reason number 1, Obito's mask, it served a completely different narrative purpose. Let me restate that, because if we're going to bring up the Obito comparison, it's very important to look at why Obito wore a mask. There was a whole narrative purpose built into it. Obito wore that mask because the entire world thought that he was dead. He was impersonating Madara Uchiha. The fear of the name Madara carried weight. He was hiding his identity to maintain that illusion. There's also great symbolism when you look at the fact that Obito, by wearing that mask, was able to run away from some of the weight that was on his shoulders that came from being Obito Uchiha, because walking in Konoha with his face being shown means having to confront Minato, having to confront Kakashi. At that point in time, when Obito was 14 years old, inside the village itself, having been gaslighted by Madara prior to this, Obito did not know who he truly was. He was running away from it. By hiding his identity, he maintained that illusion, and he also was able to escape. Boruto, on the other hand, he doesn't need to hide. He isn't pretending to be anyone else. He isn't trying to manipulate geopolitical tension the way that Obito did for a full 17 years following the death of the 4th Hokage. Boruto is just trying to avoid a civil war from breaking out. He's not running from his identity, not in the way that Obito did for a while. He's protecting everyone else from that truth, that he and Kawaki's memories have been swapped. It's a need to know basis on who knows the truth. And that brings me to point number 2, reason number 2 or rather, which is that Kawaki can sense Boruto's chakra. Even if Boruto wore a mask, guess what? Kawaki would know he was there. He could sense him. He'd be the first one saying, hey, sensory unit, I sense Boruto. He's somewhere in this location. Oh, there's a masked guy? That's gotta be him. It would be like trying to hide from someone who has their location shared on their iPhone, or since we're in Boruto, they have their location shared on their ninja phone, and they have the whole Find My Ninja feature that is on there. No mask is fixing that. And that also brings me to point number 3. A mask does not prevent the problems that you think that it does. Yes, Konoha's sensory division identifies chakra signatures. Boruto's Otsutsuki can naturally mask his chakra. Boruto would also stand out walking around in the village with a mask. Boruto could walk into Konoha wearing a Halloween costume and a Walmart ghost face mask, and the sensory unit's still gonna be like, wait a second, I can't pick up this guy's chakra signature. Why is he hiding his face? That looks suspicious. Somebody go check that out. Obito wore his mask to hide from the world. Boruto doesn't wear one because the world is already hiding from the truth. One man hid from his identity. The other carries his identity like emotional weightlifting. Honestly, if Boruto wore a mask, Kawaki could still snitch. Obito be looking down from the Pure Land like, damn kid, couldn't be me though. And that also brings me to why the transformation jutsu is just as useless. So this is huge. During the fight with Mamushi, I saw a lot of comments. Fans were saying, why doesn't Boruto disguise himself using the transformation jutsu? Here's why. Transformation jutsu still consumes chakra. Even if you say Boruto has perfect chakra control, it consumes chakra. Mamushi is strong enough that Boruto had to use karma. Yes, he used it to absorb the flames in order to prevent the mass scale of the flames from burning stuff down, But the narrator's words at the end of the chapter are also making it clear that Boruto's gambling by using the Karma Seal, and that he's using it to try to defeat Mamushi. Every drop of chakra, it matters in this fight. Transformation jutsu, it is pointless here for the same reason that Sasuke could not absorb chakra from Naruto during that Jigen fight, because both characters were fighting for their lives at that moment. Every milligram of chakra was crucial. Let's be real here for a second. I'm going to give Naruto and Sasuke fans some severe PTSD. Naruto and Sasuke were getting cooked by Jigen so bad that asking Naruto for chakra would have been one of the most disrespectful things Sasuke could have done. Sasuke absorbing chakra in that fight during that moment would be like, hey, Naruto, I know you're currently being turned into a floor mat. I know this guy is about to knock you out with 3 hits in the manga, but hey fam, I'm gonna need you to give me that 30% of your chakra real quick. You're that much stronger than me. Why don't you just give me the whole 99% and you make it work off of 1%, because I need all the chakra I can get because of the gap between me and Jigen. Naruto will look at this man and say, bro, I'm 1 hit away from being a flashback panel in the sequel to my own story. Please don't take any of my chakra. It's the same reason why Jigen was not going to sit still long enough for Sasuke to absorb anything. The amount of chakra that Sasuke would have needed to be able to close the gap between him and Jigen would have been massive. It's the same logic here. Using transformation jutsu in a death match like this, where Boruto's also going to have to teleport to various places around the village, and his flying Raijin jutsu requires intense concentration, which is a reminder, when you perform jutsu that require intense concentration, it also directly impacts your ability to use and maintain Shadow Clone. Shadow Clone jutsu video will be linked in the description box if you doubt what I'm saying there. Boruto needs chakra in order to fight Mamushi. He don't got time to be cosplaying as somebody else. All of his focus has to be on Mamushi here. Now, this next thing that I find fascinating is why Boruto fighting to protect the people of Konoha still makes sense. This is extremely important. Boruto knows he's innocent. He knows Kawaki sealed Naruto and Hinata. He knows Omnipotence swapped everyone's memories. And Boruto still chooses to not expose the truth. Why? Because Boruto understands consequences. If the truth comes out right now, Konoha, it would collapse. Half the village would take Boruto's side. The other half, they would take Kawaki's side, because people are going to trust their memories. Again, Sarada handing out photos of baby Boruto being held by Naruto didn't make people go, oh my god, Kawaki's a fraud. Omnipotence is overpowered. Shinobi factions, they would form overnight. You would get the Anbu split up. You would have clan alliances torn, potentially families torn apart. Look no further than Sai's own son working with Boruto. Ino is not fucking with Boruto. That's one example. That is a civil war that could destroy Konoha from the inside at a time where they need to be united against a threat like Jura. Boruto isn't withholding the truth because he's weak. He's doing it because he's strong enough to carry it. He is proving right now that he is worthy of inheriting Sasuke's mantle as Shadow Hokage. He refuses to let the innocent people get further swept up in a lie. He's basically pulling a forgive them father, they know not what they do. If you understand that reference, which I'm sure some of you guys would, since like 50% of you guys are American on this channel. Big shouts out to you. But Boruto is showing compassion to people who would gladly hand him over to die. Again, that's not a plot hole. That is character writing at its finest. And speaking of character writing, that brings me to Boruto and Obito, and how this is an inverse parallel that I don't see enough people talking about. So this is beautiful. Obito returned to the village wearing a mask. Boruto returns to the village fully unmasked. Obito hid from the man that he used to be, or the boy he used to be. Boruto embraces the boy who he used to be, as well as the man that he's becoming. Obito visited Ren's grave, and in the manga we saw signs that it did hold a bit of a weight on him. Even when he saw Minato again, he still referred to him as Minato Sensei in his head. Boruto walks through Konoha and carries the burden of a hero unrecognized. Notice he never called Himawari his sister, not even when she showed up and he was face to face with her. Obito hid in the shadows. He had a mask on, the physical symbol of an identity that he abandoned. Boruto is walking right into the light, even when the light itself wants to burn him. That is the invisible mask of omnipotence. Let me repeat that. That is the invisible mask of omnipotence. Boruto is wearing a mask. It's invisible though. That's what makes this whole writing genius. Boruto wears a mask, but it's not physical. It is a narrative one. The invisible mask of omnipotence. The world sees him as something that he's not. His true name has been erased. His legacy is gone. Most of his relationships have been stolen. His identity is hidden not by fabric, but by fate itself. He wears a mask that cannot be removed because it was placed on him via a shinjutsu that Boruto himself cannot reverse right now. Obito chose his mask. Boruto's mask was forced on him, and that makes him the perfect inverse parallel. To further drive this home, we're gonna have to address this plot hole nonsense that I still see people throwing around every single Boruto chapter. And I'm gonna offer a hot take. I think fans need to stop using this term loosely. I'll use plot hole in titles and thumbnails, and when you actually watch the video, you see I spend most of the video explaining, hey, this bullshit is not a plot hole. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. So plot hole has become the new Mary Sue, in my opinion. People throw the word around without understanding what it truly means. They have a concept of an understanding of what it means, but they use it incorrectly. A plot hole is a contradiction in the story's logic that the narrative cannot and does not explain. It's something that is based on rules that's already established and the story itself ignores them. An example of a plot hole would be a character teleporting without that ability. In a world where teleportation isn't done via science or anything, it has to be an ability you know. A plot hole would be a revealed truth that contradicts an earlier fact, unless it's a situation where there's an unreliable narrator. A great example of something like that would be how in Naruto's manga, we initially got told that Orochimaru left the Hidden Leaf Village immediately after being passed over as 4th Hokage, meaning Orochimaru would have left the village before the Nine Tails attack. We know that's not true. Orochimaru ended up leaving the Hidden Leaf Village roughly a year before the Uchiha Massacre took place. Could you call that retroactive continuity or retcon for short? Sure. You could also take it as Ibiki was not a reliable narrator when he said that in Naruto Part 1, which makes sense. Ibiki was a child when Orochimaru left. But Boruto returning to Konoha, that's not a contradiction. It actually supports the story's rules. Omnipotence rewrote memories. Villagers logically react based on those memories, and Kawaki taking advantage of those memories to spread that lie he's a Hokage killer. Boruto is trying to avoid a civil war. Masks are pointless for this reason, because narratively, it goes against the reason why Boruto is showing his face in a village like this. Transformation jutsu would waste chakra. Everything aligns. Nothing is inconsistent here. It's not a plot hole. This is how ongoing manga storytelling works. I've said this for years now. You cannot consume a manga the way you can a completed anime where you can binge watch a series from start to finish. You can do that with Naruto. It's done. You can do that with Attack on Titan. It's done. You cannot do that with One Piece. You cannot do that with Chainsaw Man. especially with a monthly manga like Boruto. Every monthly manga has moments where people yell, "That's a plot hole." I went through it when I was part of the Attack on Titan fandom, and then sure enough, things that people said was a plot hole ended up getting addressed. This is where, as a fan, you have to be patient. Manga is consumed in magazines weekly, monthly, or quarterly, depending on the publication. But the intended format for reading is one volume at a time, one full volume at a time. That is how the pacing and the reveals and the payoffs are structured. Every manga volume, those chapters are put in there as a short story as a part of a bigger story itself. It ends on a cliffhanger to make you pick up the next manga volume. That is why I'm a big proponent when you get new chapters, read them, but always go back and reread everything in volume format. So for Boruto, that's 4 chapters at a time. Reading month to month creates the illusion of inconsistencies that disappear when you read it in volume format, or you read it when the arc itself is finished. You have long-term storytelling. Just because we don't see Sarada versus Kawaki does not mean that's not something that's coming. Just because we don't see more people waking up to the truth of omnipotence doesn't mean that it's not coming. We're seeing it in slow fashion. Some people are starting to put the pieces together. Calling something a plot hole during the rise in action or the setup phase is like criticizing a puzzle when you only have a quarter of the pieces put together in place. Boruto returning to Konoha is not a plot hole. It's a character-defining moment for his character. Boruto chooses duty over vengeance, compassion over ego, truth over reputation, peace over acknowledgement, honor over the easy path. This moment of him walking through the village without a physical mask on, it is something that adds to Boruto's core identity. He is Naruto's son, not because blood says so, but because his actions say so. Even though he's unrecognized, even though he is hated, even though he is hunted, Boruto returns to protect the very same people who called for his death. Obito returned to destroy the world that wronged him and the shinobi system that put people like he and Kakashi and Rin in a situation where they had to go fight in wars. Boruto is returning to save the world that forgot him. That is the difference. That is the inverse parallel. That is the power of this moment. And that is why this is absolutely not a plot hole. This is foreshadowing. This is tragedy. This is responsibility. This is heroism that is woven together brilliantly. Boruto isn't hiding behind a mask. He's carrying the weight of that invisible mask of omnipotence. And when the truth finally comes out, when Naruto returns, when omnipotence is reversed, when Boruto is finally seen again as being Naruto's son, that conclusion of his character arc is going to hit like a Rasengan directly to the heart, almost as hard as the videos here on the left from Naruto Explained or the videos here on the right from my other 2 anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.